Okay, so you've got this big assignment, right? Connecting the Hudson River School painters with the Transcendentalist writers. And maybe you're feeling a little stuck. Don't even worry about it. This whole explainer is designed to give you a really clear path to connect the art and the ideas, so you can absolutely nail that mastery challenge. All right, let's just dive right in. So take a look at this. On one side, you have this huge, really dramatic painting of a storm rolling over the mountains. And on the other, you've got the philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson saying something kind of weird. I become a transparent eyeball. Now, at first glance, these seem like they're from two different planets. But what if I told you that a painting of a storm and a strange quote about an eyeball are actually saying the exact same thing? That's the puzzle we're going to solve together. Here's our game plan. First, we'll look at what these two movements have in common. Then, we're going to dive deep into the art itself, followed by the big ideas from the writers. After that, and this is the important part, I'll give you a step-by-step guide for building that bridge between them for your assignment. And finally, we'll talk about why these old ideas are still, believe it or not, a huge deal today. I want you to picture this. It's the mid-1800s in America. The country is growing like crazy, but it's also splitting apart, getting closer and closer to a civil war. But in the middle of all that chaos, a bunch of artists and a bunch of writers, well, they started looking somewhere else for answers. They turned their attention away from the cities and the politics and looked to two places, the massive American wilderness and the quiet landscape inside the human mind. So let's start with the painters. The Hudson River School, well, it wasn't a real school with buildings and classes. It was America's very first real artistic movement. And these artists, they all shared one big obsession: capturing the wild, beautiful, and powerful character of the American landscape. Now, this is where we learn how to actually read a painting. Take a look at Thomas Cole's famous oxbow. Look over to the left side. What do you see? It's dark, stormy, a little chaotic, right? See that blasted tree trunk in the front, all shattered by lightning? That's nature, raw and totally untamed. Okay, now let your eyes move across that bend in the river to the right side. It's a completely different world, isn't it? Calm sunlight, neat little farm fields, smoke curling up from chimneys. Cole is basically painting a nation at a crossroads, asking, are we the wild past or the settled future? And this gets right to the feeling these artists were after. In this painting by Albert Bierstadt, see if you can find the people or the deer. Go ahead, look for them. They're super tiny, right? They're almost lost, completely dwarfed by the massive power of the landscape. The sharp mountain peaks, that dramatic light punching through the clouds. This isn't just a pretty picture. It's meant to be an experience. It's designed to make you feel awe, wonder, and maybe even a little bit of healthy fear. You know, that feeling actually has a name: the sublime. The sublime is that experience you have when you're just so overwhelmed by the sheer size and power of nature that it makes you feel your own smallness. And it's not a bad feeling. It's actually a powerful one that puts your own life and your own problems into perspective. It's the exact feeling that the writer Margaret Fuller was talking about when she wrote about the greatness of the world and the insignificance of man. See the connection? All right, let's switch over to the writers now. While the painters were busy putting the sublime on canvas, the transcendentalists, thinkers like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, and Margaret Fuller, were starting a kind of philosophical rebellion. They basically argued that the biggest truths in life weren't found in churches or old books from Europe. Nope, they said you find truth by looking inward, to your own gut feeling, and outward, to the natural world. Emerson was really the ringleader of this whole movement. And his core message was pretty radical for his time. Trust yourself. He believed that every single person has a little piece of the divine inside them, their own inner truth. For him, fitting in and just going along with the crowd was the worst thing you could do. The most important thing was to listen to that iron string of your own heart, not all the noise from everyone else. And then you've got Thoreau. He was the guy who actually put Emerson's ideas into practice. He literally built a tiny cabin by Walden Pond so he could live deliberately. But what does that even mean? Well, he wanted to strip away all the stuff that doesn't really matter in life. You know, the clutter, the deadlines, the meaningless social stuff, to figure out what was actually essential. And for him, the best way to do that was through a simple life deeply connected to nature. And Margaret Fuller, she just says it so beautifully. She saw nature as a direct line to God, or the universe, or whatever you want to call it, a way to connect to something way bigger than yourself. For Fuller, taking a walk in the woods wasn't just about getting some fresh air. It was a spiritual act that could literally expand your mind and bring you into communion with universal truth. Okay, so we have painters who are obsessed with the power of nature. We have writers telling us to find truth in ourselves, in that same nature. Now for the main event. How do you actually connect these two things for your assignment? Let's build that bridge step by step. Right, so the main job here is to go from just looking at a painting and reading a quote to explaining the deep idea that they both share. How do we take the clues from the canvas and match them up with the clues from the page? It's actually a pretty clear, logical process once you see the steps. Here are the 3 magic steps. First, you really have to analyze the painting. Go beyond just saying, it's a landscape. Ask yourself, what's the main feeling or idea this thing is trying to get across? Second, you find the shared theme. That's the big idea that connects the painting to what the transcendentalists were thinking about. And third, you explain exactly how both the painting and a specific quote prove that shared theme is there. Let's try it out with this painting, Kindred Spirits. So step 1, analyze the painting. Okay, we see 2 guys, the painter Thomas Cole and his poet friend William Cullen Bryant, standing on a cliff. But look at how they fit into the landscape. They aren't trying to conquer it, they're totally absorbed by it. The incredible detail, that soft light, the sheer vastness of it all, it creates a feeling of peaceful awe. It feels like they're sharing a deep, almost spiritual connection right there in nature. Now for step 2, find the connection. That feeling from the painting, a spiritual connection found in nature, it links up perfectly with this quote from Thoreau. Heaven is under our feet as well as over our heads. You see what he's saying? He's pushing back on the idea that holiness is somewhere far away up in the sky. He's saying, no, it's right here. It's in the dirt, the trees, the rocks. And that is exactly what the painting shows. It's a moment of finding something sacred, not in a church, but on a mountain ledge. That's our bridge. So here's a really crucial tip for your assignment. When you state your theme, it has to be a complete idea, not just one word. So don't just write nature. A much stronger theme would be, nature reveals a deeper spiritual truth. Instead of just writing freedom, try something like, individuals should trust their own unique perspective. You can use these examples on the screen as models to help you write a really clear, strong theme statement. All right, let's bring it home. We're going to tackle the final and maybe the most important part of the assignment, making it all relevant. Why should we care about any of this stuff from the 1800s? Let's connect the dots to right now. And that's a totally fair question, right? We live in a world of social media, artificial intelligence. Why are we looking back? Well, it's because these ideas never really went away. In fact, they are woven deep into our culture today, shaping how we think about everything from the planet to our own personal happiness. Just think about it for a second. The whole modern environmental movement, its roots are right here, in this deep reverence for nature. Every time you hear someone talk about unplugging or going on a digital detox to find themselves, that's just Thoreau's Walden experiment with a new name. This whole search for a simpler, more authentic life, pure transcendentalism. And that feeling that you should trust your gut and speak your truth, even if no one else agrees, that is Emerson's self-reliance for the 21st century. Look, at the end of the day, these artists and writers were tapping into a human need that is totally timeless. Just like those tiny little figures in their paintings, we still drive out to national parks, we hike up mountains, we stand at the edge of the ocean just to feel that same sense of wonder. We look to nature to get some perspective, to quiet all the noise in our heads, and to connect with something ancient and way, way bigger than ourselves. So now it is totally your turn. You have the framework, you've got the tools to analyze, and you know the core ideas. So take a fresh look at those paintings and quotes. Find a connection that really speaks to you. What powerful theme are you going to discover and explain? You can do this. You've got it.